Looking at these photos, it is hard to believe that they are over 100 years old. Would these girls be considered attractive nowadays? And has much changed in the standards of beauty for a whole century? I suggest you to answer these questions yourself by evaluating the girls from these photos, which are more than 100 years old. Enjoy your viewing. Algeria, Moorish girl, 1900s. Maori women from New Zealand, 1902. Photo captioned, "My great-great-grandmother sometime in the 1890s. Maud Feely was an American silent theater and film actress who became famous for her beauty, was able to find herself in the era of sound cinema as well. Cléo de Merode, French dancer, star of the so-called Belle Époque period in France and other Western European countries. Chinese girl, 1920. British woman with a dog. The inscription on the back reads, "This is a hand-colored photograph of a British beauty." Indian woman in studio, 1920. Nepalese woman. A beautiful Filipino woman. This woman from the Philippine island of Luzon shows the style and fashion of her days. At this time in the early 20th century, American fashion had already begun to exert its influence, but the traditional Tagalog style was still very evident. 1975. Beautiful stranger. The unknown Broadway supporting actress didn't leave behind a big name, but this shot is more eloquent than the screaming playbills. Princess Olga Nikolaevna Romanova, Russian Empire. Woman in white, 1920. Tamil woman from Ceylon, Sri Lanka, 1895. Norwegian girls, early 20th century. Russian girls carrying water to a hut, Russian Empire, 1910s. A traditional hairstyle known as the pumpkin flower curl, worn by unmarried Hopi women in the Arizona reservations, 1901s. A young girl from Hong Kong. Mary Pickford, silent movie legend. Mary Pickford was a Canadian film actress and her real name was Gladys Louise Smith. Japanese warrior women, women who were part of the samurai class in feudal Japan and trained in weapon skills. Colombo, a young woman from the Rodi caste. Rodi is an untouchable caste among the Sinhalese. 1875. A girl from the Oland Nail Tribal Union, Algeria, who are famous for their dancing as well as prostitution. Whole neighborhoods of brothels in Algerian cities bore the name of their tribal union. A young girl from the island of Bali, 1930. Ethel Warwick. Moorish woman, 1900. Gypsy woman with a mandolin. A peasant woman at a loom, Russian Empire, 1900s. A woman from Jerusalem, 1880s. Berber girl. I suggest we all travel to North America. Native North American women are real warriors who can stop a horse at a gallop. In movies and magazines they appear to us as long-legged brunettes, which excite men's minds and ignite the envy of women. In traditional Indian culture, women have always been respected, and although their role in society was usually very different from that of men, they often had the same rights as men. They owned the house and everything in it. And in some tribes, women were even responsible for choosing housing. In addition, women's activities in Indian tribes have always been central to the well-being of society. Let's take a look at what young Native American women really looked like in the late 19th century. Were they as beautiful as we are used to seeing them on our screens? Sweet Nosy, a Cheyenne representative, 1878, Fort Keogh, Montana. Photograph of an Indian girl, 1890. Ooobi, Keova, 1894. American Indian writer from the Yankton Sioux tribes at Kala Shaw, 1890. Marcia Pascal, half Cherokee, daughter of American Army officer George Pascal, 1880s. A member of the Apache Indians, Nebraska, photographed by Frank Reinhardt, 1899s. young Indian woman of the Jicarilla Apache tribe, 1905. Gertrude Three Fingers, Cheyenne, from an album of photographs of American Indians in Oklahoma, 1870 to 1900. Crow Girl, circa 1885. Spokane Indian Woman, 1897. A young Kiowa Indian woman, circa 1895. A Seneca photo model named Awe Iyu, which means beautiful flower, 1908. 1901, Chippewa Native American, spoke the Algonquin language, lived on the upper Michigan River west of the state of North Dakota. European colonization interrupted the natural course of development of Indian peoples and tribes. A large number of North American Indians died of diseases to which they had no immunity and were exterminated by the colonizers. Many peoples and tribes were relocated by Europeans from their traditional habitats to reservations in the United States and Canada. Indian woman in Fort Snelling prisoner of war camp, 1862 to 1863. Warrior's Bride, Indian woman, 1914. Indian girl Netta Parker Birdsong, daughter of Quanah Parker, a great Comanche chief, 1900. Wanata Parker, also daughter of Quanah Parker. Ojibwe girl, 1910. Loti Kiya Tede, daughter of a chief, Laguna Pueblo, New Mexico, 1905. Pictured here is Pat Iwa, an American Indian woman, 1900. Blackfeet Indian, 1915. An Indian woman by a lake, 1908. Indian woman wearing abalone earrings and a cedar bark cape. Photo shows a Kiowa Indian woman with her child, 1800s. A girl named Delia Albert of the Tolowa tribe near Crescent City, California, circa 1920. A Blackfeet Indian girl, 1900s. Apache girl with a basket, 1902. And in these pictures from the late 19th and early 20th century, we want to show you how geisha and their young students look in everyday life without the traditional kimono and makeup. We used to think of geisha as doing lewd things because their job is to entertain men. Geisha use their talent not to please clients with their bodies but to entertain using their intelligence and skill. Geisha, which means man of art in Japanese, are not at all what we tend to mistakenly think of them. Representative of the Moru Mangbetu people, Republic of Congo. Young girl, portrait, Ethiopia, photographer-researcher Urian Barrel from France. English actress Ellen Terry. This photo looks like a modern photograph, but was taken back in 1864. Ellen Terry had a distinguished career and died in 1928. A shot of historic fashion from the early 1900s. Zulu women in South Africa, 1915. Nguni woman with a period-specific hairstyle, South Africa, late 19th century. Lina Cavalieri, famous Italian opera singer whose image and figure became the invisible prison of hundreds of aristocrats. At the beginning of the last century, stylish women wore hats with feathers and stuffed birds, even with whole bird nests, and the more rare and exotic the bird was, the more popular it was. Rare birds and feathers were imported in huge quantities. The decor strove for complete naturalness. The bird on the hat had to look as if it were ready to flutter up and fly away at a moment's notice. The feather trade declined after World War I and almost ceased after World War II. It was not until 1921 that the rampant extermination of birds was outlawed. However, it was the whims of changing fashions that put an end to the brutal destruction of birds, which proved to be more effective than protection ordinances. Ashanti women posed for a portrait, Ghana, c. 1906. Bedouin woman, 1875. Portrait of a young Jambi girl with typical Jambi earrings. Iona Bright, American theater actress who worked on Broadway. Burlesque dancer Sylvia Jerish, 1890. She was known as the girl with the poetic legs. And these photos are of girls who probably never cut their hair. The hair, a woman's hair, was considered an integral part of her appearance in the Victorian era, defining status and femininity. In the 19th century, Letting your hair down was not just an idiom, it was an act that was only performed in the bedroom when a woman took out her hairpins and brushed her long hair. Only her husband or a servant could see her like this. Women's hair was the main expression of their femininity, and neatness of Victorian hairstyles was one of the most important aspects, which is why many women of those years never cut their hair so as not to lose their wealth and beauty. Arab Girl from Nazareth, 1889. Claire Mercereau, stage actress, 1908. Julia Marlowe, English-born American actress known for her interpretations of William Shakespeare's plays. Berber or Moorish Girl, 1875. Tunisian Girl, 1908. Thank you for watching. I hope you have already decided your answer and share it with us in the comments. We and other viewers, subscribers as well as guests of the channel will read. I wish you all the best. See you soon.